tag you. I'll tag you on Facebook.
Okay.
That way it'll show up. And I'll share it out a little bit. Uh-oh. There it goes. All right. Okay, let's see. Jacob. Jacob. That's a biblical name.
It is, yeah. It's not actually my birth name.
No. Oh, this is going to be a good show. I can already tell. So
I had a feeling this.
Say that.
I had a feeling this would happen. This would come up.
Well, I just got an intuitive feeling right when you said that wasn't your real name. Well, we'll see where we'll see where it goes. All right, so we're into our second show of the day with a new friend, Jacob RA Dodds. He comes highly recommended from a few different people. And I don't know him, so we're just going to get to know each other in front of everybody. Thank everybody for joining. We're going to have another show right after this, so we got a fast hour of power with our brother Jacob. I don't know, we just met through Messenger, and when I approached you, I know you've been traveling, and but throughout the history of the show, our favorite question is, did you have a wake-up experience, or have you always been this weird?
I could say yes and yes.
So do most people. Don't feel like the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely I had a big one in my late 30s when a good friend passed away. That was really my initiation to the whole new path that I'm a part of now. I always believe that even when we're unconscious, we're on a conscious journey. And of course, as a youngster, I was super sensitive and aware, and had beings around me supporting me, and I was very psychic and sensitive to a lot of things. And we go on our path and we get lost and do all sorts of earthly things, which have a lot of interesting experiences. But yeah, it was in my late 30s was the big shift for me. Was what I guess we could call it the first awakening, or however you want to word it.
So what was that, like 5 years ago?
Thank you. I've actually, do I go into this? In my human life, I'm 56 right now.
Somehow or another, I think there's, go ahead.
About 18 years ago, it happened. It was my big shift, yeah.
Well, somehow in that quip, that little, what you said, tells me that, is there another part to that? Are you growing younger?
I feel so. Yeah, I mean, on one level, I've never really related to my age, no matter where I've been on my journey. Turning 30 was like, what does that mean? Turning 40. I mean, it has life experiences and things, but I've never really related to an earthly age in the way that we do. And I explore different things, with breath and diet and environment and living, and I really feel we can fully regenerate and become younger and live for many years, hundreds, maybe even. Let's see. I'm going to explore that.
What happened to you 18 years ago? I'm just curious. You can give a short version if you want to.
I was a bit of a party fiend for a long time, and I was finding that I was sick of that and I didn't know how to change. And I was in the journey of that shift, not really able to make it. And then part of what came through was being around family and friends became very important to me. And I know now that was more of a soul calling, but I wasn't aware of what that was at that time. So I thought of my family and my friends and my hometown, and was looking at moving to my hometown and going to stay with one of my good mates over Christmas, and 2 weeks before Christmas, he died in a motorbike accident. And yeah, it was a shock that it was him. He's a really beautiful brother. He wrote a lot of amazing songs. There was 2,500 people at his funeral, um, and yeah, he was very special. And it took a few months, and then I don't know, maybe March or April the next year, I just at work one day had a bit of a run in with my boss, and I just lost it, and I ran out of my business and broke down in tears, and I was there for hours, and then a couple of hours, and then I got up and asked two questions. What is life about? What am I going to do about this? And what is life really about? And off I went. Bless my brother Ringy.
Rest in power. They're right here with us. Yeah.
Yes.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. So you did a 180. You were going one direction and you just stopped and said, F this, I'm going the other way.
Yeah.
The same path all the crazy people took, but we're not crazy anymore.
No, that's right. No, I mean, we never really were. We're just different, and yeah, and the more you move around and you connect with people, you see how many of us there actually is.
That's
Yeah,
very
I feel
true.
that's really important to know.
Yeah, that's very true. That's coming more and more into our awareness. It's like everything that we see that's presented to us in the external does not show that part of us. The only place you find that is like in one-on-one conversations, or even really through the mirrors that you attract by the expressions of the inspiration of it all, which is what a lot of us have done in our own way, be it posts or paintings or songs or shows or whatever the case is, to kind of spread the word, beneath the radar. And a lot of people too seem to have with these initial downloads, you might say, and the ones that come because they never stop after that, a certain guidance that speaks to the purpose of the moment. How you express yourself, how you share the intel that you're getting. Did you go through that?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I feel like I was really fortunate. I kind of just stepped into this other world that I'm aware that it was always there, but I wasn't aware that it was there. And I've been kind of quite free to express myself no matter who's around me. For the most part, of course, it's not always been that easy in certain circumstances. But if I look at the whole picture, um, I was pretty good at just allowing myself to be true to myself, and you know to read energy and understand energetics, like straight away on when I woke up back then, as I went to and got a clairvoyant reading, and the lady told me that Archangel Michael and Raphael were my main two guides, and I was like, okay, and you can ask on them. Oh, okay, cool. And then I was also told to leave that area, and my car didn't work and it needed a lot of mechanical help, and I didn't have the money to pay for it. And I got a printout about Archangel Michael, and he's good with mechanics and computers. And so I meditated my second time ever in my life, and kind of, I don't know, almost demanded that he would do that. You guys are my guides, you can do this. You are telling me to take a risk. I need my car. And I took it back, and it needed all the brake hoses replaced and the small ball joints in the front steering, and I didn't do those at all. And the garage priced it, and it was quite expensive, so it never got done. And we took it back to the same place 4 days later or something, and yeah, they passed it. And the guy questioned me. He said, "Oh, haven't you? How come you haven't replaced the brake hoses?" And I said, "Oh, are they not all right? I thought they were okay. I had a lot of things to fix. I'm sure they're okay." And he's like, "Yeah, well, yeah, I think we can pass it today." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I got it and got my role in the fitness, and I drove out of there just like, holy moly, like that actually happened. And I don't have anyone that I can actually tell that story because they'll all think I'm mad, like we talked about. So at that moment, I didn't really have anyone to tell that experience. So people came into my life a bit later, but it just showed me, the potency of it all, and just being true to that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something about the truth, I guess, the truth as we stand here with one foot in, one foot on one side and one foot on the other side as this transition has taken place. But there's something to be said that which is coming into the fold is not literal from our old paradigm's definition. You know what I mean? In other words, there's no evidence, which is why you don't want to tell anybody because they'll think you're crazy. But this has been going on for quite some time. I mean, on or about 2012, some people many years before, even decades. Some people just a few years ago. But the energy collectively is so profound that things are moving much quicker, right? Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it's like these things are real, and we have them happen, and we do want to tell other people in the past because they're like an aberration. They're like a one-off. Like, oh, I can't believe this happened. I got to tell somebody so they can believe it. Then I'll maybe be able to do another one. And we get taken right back to the same place, which is whatever happened before, good or bad, isn't with you. That information's with you. And now let's try it again. But we seem to be coming into this space where we're starting to accept the divinity within us in the physical experience. I can, hear your heart. I can hear the evolution of, coming to this awareness in the physicality. And I feel that, there's been a lot of, and rightly so, a lot of discussion and really leadership from the feminine part of this world, especially like, in the last 14, 15 years in these light workers, starseed circles, empath circles. But I feel like there's a masculine part that's stepping up now. And that's what kind of came through in what you were saying. Just in
Yeah, for
your
sure.
energy. And somehow or another, I think the name Jacob has something to do with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was so. Yeah, part of my journey as I was getting into it and meditating more. One day I got the message that I'd have a different name, and that's why I also keep the Ra, because it's okay. I'm very connected with the sun and the Ra energy. However, that Ra is honouring my earthly name. So I was Robert Dodds. That's my birth name. So I was Robbie and Rob most of my life. So at some point along my journey, Jacob came in meditation. Well, I got told that there would be another name. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that I was going to have another name. And then about 2 years later, Jacob came in. And it was kind of weird because I knew this name was coming and I felt this energy and I was all excited. And I thought, oh, wow, when, whatever this name is, I'll be more than what I am now or something else, and more aligned and da-da-da. However, the experience at the time when Jacob came in, it was actually I had to grieve letting Robbie go, and that aspect of myself, and that happened really strongly for the first 3 days, and that was a really interesting experience. And then Jacob is becoming more, it was just the becoming of that frequency and what that means to step into that, and I don't really. I mean, I ask a lot of questions, but I don't ask like why now. Why? How come it came now? It's just like it's here. Okay, so now, and it's part of, the cross consciousness, those codes, and bringing through the divine feminine through the masculine body, divine masculine, all coming into harmony. And like you say, a lot more masculinist people and man bodies are coming forward. Finally, it's good to see. I think it's not an easy journey for us fellas, because of how we're taught to suppress our feelings and be strong and all that bullshit. That's totally the opposite.
And then be held in judgment for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, being at work, in that working environment as a male, it's full on intense. And like I can remember being told as a younger guy, men don't buy quiche, men don't eat quiche, and I'll be like, what? Even though I was a big meat eater and I probably didn't eat quiche, I was just thought, what is that? It's such a weird thing. Um, but yeah, we're definitely seeing more. Like it's really great to see, and it's all coming together. Like you say, the energies and the frequencies that are here, and how accessible it is, and how quickly it's moving, and how we can all feed off each other. Because we all are connected. And being in this human body is absolutely vital part of it, and honoring what you're experiencing and feeling through your own body is super important, because to be honest, it's quite easy to connect to the galactics once you start opening yourself up to that. And that can serve you to a degree, and I know that through my own journey, because I speak light language, I draw light language and sacred geometry. And I did have a stage where it was like, okay, stop, bro, stop, integrate, get back in the body, do something very mundane, just enjoy being human. Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's so funny. It's so funny. That's what it's come down to, though. Like you said, it's easy to connect to the galactic, or really anything else outside of us, based on the old perception. But try connecting to your human. And that's not just the shadows that we've worked on and come to embrace, but it's also the skills and the abilities that are inherent, and that we're comprised of within this physical body, which is like the greatest adventure the universe has ever been in. To be in like this heavy density and try to apply the virtues and the skills and abilities and sensitivities of the soul. I think a lot of the code, I don't think I feel this for myself. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I'm saying that the best code has been in the conscious awareness, awake state of the human being, making choices, new choices of integrity, unconditional love, pure intention, the Trinity energy, where I'm serving everything outside of me as I'm serving myself with the thought, word, or action. But a lot of this code, I think we didn't see and we didn't pick up on along the way, such as a man like you, what was 18 years ago, and going through what seems to be more and more apparent what everyone's going through, and starting to get tapped into. How did your evolution occur with the polarity of the feminine energy?
You mean like before the 18 years ago, or during?
I think both would be relevant. And what I'm saying is, and I didn't fully explain myself, but the code, to me, the greatest code is coming through the stories that we've lived. And sometimes we don't pick up the intel in the moment. We pick it up, looking back. And so the masculine and the feminine seem to be the last line of separation. And I'm just curious, a man like you that's carrying the energy that you're carrying, what was your evolution? What was your journey with the feminine energy in all forms? And I would imagine for most humans, that's a partner, a mother, a sister, a daughter, and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I was always, when I was younger, connect with women really easy, and I feel that's a big part of it. And in that world, with the partying world, when you're talking to a woman, you must be sleeping with her, and I had to deal with all that because that wasn't happening. But because we're having such in-depth conversations and that connection, and I gravitated towards that. I couldn't really meet many men in that way. I had some close friends, but actually on reflection, those relationships, even though they seemed awesome, they didn't really have any depth, and there was a lot of distortion and bullshit within that. Whereas with the woman, when you really connected with them, you could meet each other and you could have a conversation for hours without with only just meeting each other, because you were just showing up, and I feel that that supported me vastly on my journey. Um, I've always had a very strong connection with my mum, and I was her favourite. I'm the youngest of four, so I had that connection, and my mum was always there for me. Interesting though, because my dad, I had a love-hate relationship with, and we did a lot of amazing things, and he was an amazing man, but that confrontation stuff. Whereas, well, now I'm at this end of my life, and my dad's passed now, but prior to that, reflecting on them, I can talk more about my dad and like write beautiful poems about him, and not so much my mum. And it's interesting because that kind of dynamics with my dad, and who he was, he's got a character, and I know this person and I have this connection, whereas mum was kind of there and she just supported me and allowed me whatever happened, and often would actually, if I got myself in trouble, she would look at the other people that they were doing the bad thing, not me. So I don't know, that depth of that relationship and who she wasn't so much there like my dad, which is really fascinating, even though I love my mum, and I'm actually at my mum's house at the moment because she's about to recarpet the house, and I do travel around. I'm a bit of a nomad. Um, and then, yeah, later in life, I just feel it's more getting in touch with that in myself. I've had a very strong feminine energy throughout my journey, and it is the masculine aspect that I step in and out of more so, and bringing that more into harmony. Um, and just that connection with Gaia, like, that's what I'm here for. That's what I know more than anything, that connection with her, and caring for her and listening to her, and just being connected with. And it's interesting I'm saying her because I feel like others have mentioned there is this shift where there isn't going to be a her. There's just Gaia, and those energetics are going to move as well. And that's awesome to be open to that, because I have no idea. That's like the mystery of it all. And I feel we are a mystery. And the more that I see myself as a mystery, the more things can present themselves to me.
That's thank you for that, share. One of the things you said early on was the ability to, which I can relate to from day one in this lifetime, the ability to connect to a feminine energy, like you said, like you just meet them for the first time or whatever the case is. You said something else too, and it was something about where there is or there is not a romantic element to it, or an expectation, or something to that effect, which really made me think, because not only is that rare, or at least in the past, for the masculine journey, but it's rare for the feminine journey. So not only is there the obvious where essentially women are always being hit on, like they can't trust what's coming at them because there might be a game behind it, that what I mean. And that's something that we've had to learn, we've had to listen to, and for it to come into our awareness to really understand it. What's it like to be a woman in the world that you're not safe in, because the whole thing is set up the same way. But on the other end, and I feel like this has really come in the last 3 or 4 months, is this voice of a masculine that was forgotten. We were so focused on the suppression of the feminine voice, I think we forgot that the masculine voice was suppressed too. The masculine voice was compromised. He was utilized. He was exploited. He was butchered. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so when you come into a situation with a sister and you have that connection, to be able to understand as a man or a woman that there's none of that is even in the picture. This is the connection. It doesn't mean it's a twin flame. It doesn't mean it's, romance. It doesn't mean, and that's a pressure for a man like you that you would have had to feel, which means that the masculine energy, as it comes out and emerges, is going to be faced with that. it's going to attract. But that doesn't mean it has to go the old way. It doesn't mean it has to get convoluted. So how did you, because I know you would have had to, how did you deal with these connections with the feminine that were reaching that level of connectivity and cohesion, merging, whatever, and avoid or not avoid, experience or not experience, and work your way through to a higher awareness and a higher integrity and so on? Because I know you must have had situations pop up. Or am I wrong?
Definitely all of it. I feel like part of it is I just honored that moment. Like, yeah, so to not look beyond what's next, because there would be at times an aspect of me that would go, oh, maybe she's keen on me, or maybe she thinks I'm keen on her, just things that you're saying. So those things can definitely come in, and especially in that life when we were in that partying and drinking and whatever. But I was able to sustain a lot of good long-term female friendships. And maybe that was because one of us already, or both of us already had a partner, and we were loyal to that partner, and we knew that. And I guess that meeting on a soul level would also, I feel, could be there as times where we knew that we're kind of recognizing each other in some ways, even if we're not aware of it. And that was enough to sustain it and not bring these other things into play, that would ruin it, and I guess the other side of it was, I would just start saying to people when they told me I'd been sleeping with someone, because I was talking to them, I'd just say, how good was I? So how good was I? I mean, you're telling me,
The wisdom comes through the humor. I think where I was kind of trying to go, and I wasn't trying to guide you, but I mean, just like as more time goes on, it for me anyway, it feels like that even though it doesn't look like the same story, both sides of the house went through the same thing. And so there is, like you were talking about, like we were talking about earlier, being connected to the feminine energy from a very young age. When you go out into the world, now you're 6, 7, 8 years old, you're going to grade school, and you see the masculinity on the playground, and you've got a sensitive side, and and now you're getting punched, and different things like that, and so that's not the same story as the other side of the house. It's all us. I get that. But the importance of these stories being played out in the physical gender, I think, is interesting and it's relevant. But to understand that the programming or the imprintation or impression of the influence of the programming and conditioning and fuckery started at a very young age for all of us. Now, some of it was very explicit. Sexual abuse and so on and so on. Energetically speaking, as we get to a higher and higher ground, we're starting to realize, this is what I'm feeling anyway, or what I'm seeing, that we've gone through the same thing. We were both victims of the program, victims of the realm, victims of the matrix, whatever you want to call it. And there's a ground that we've been flashing into, through our awakenings and sustaining ourselves for longer and longer. And now I think that's the final jump, is where we can go through the other side and say the last line of separation is unified. And obviously that starts with ourselves. So I really appreciate the way you were talking about how you were tapped into the femininity and how you had to pop back in and out, because it was a chore to have that type of sensitivity and go into the masculine world and get in a few fights and play some football or whatever the case is, and then come back and try to get your head and heart together. I think this is the part of the story that the masculine side of us could not explain, that was seen as a deficiency from our feminine side of not being able to be in touch with their own heart when we were all the time. Can you relate to
Yeah,
that or
sure.
speak to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, what that brings for me is, so I did have a period of heavy bullying, and the main people that started that was my closest friends. And I had, from the age of 11 to 14, I was, one of the cool kids. I was athletic, good looking. I was doing awesome things, and then just one day, one of my friends decided that he didn't like me and wanted to give me a hard time, and everyone joined him. And I had on and off for 3 years of heavy bullying, up to 40, 50 students come find me lunchtime, put a circle around me, call me names, push me around, laugh and kick. Someone would punch me in the head, I'd get stones thrown at me walking home, desks and chairs thrown at me, got grappled by a group of guys and tied up by a rope into a fence. A teacher found me hours later, all this kind of stuff. And it was kind of went on and off, on and off. And during that period, somehow within me, I had some form of knowing that if they're doing that, they must be hurting. You can't do that to someone unless you're fully hurting yourself. And I had some way of having some degree of acceptance and forgiveness that I would allow them in my life still, not looking to self-punishment. I didn't feel, but there was some intuitive nature of that connection with all, and knowing that, like I said, you've got to be in a hell of a lot of pain to be doing that kind of stuff to someone. And at some point, I was able to stand up to myself and say, that's enough. This finishes, and it did finish. I don't know whether I had to voice it in that way, but it did stop at the end of the. I've been 13, 14 years old, so third form to fourth form. I don't know what you guys call it over there. So the first year of high school. Um, and all those guys were my friends from then on, and we had heaps of awesome times. And I didn't really talk about it. I didn't go into it, but I also didn't carry a lot of ill feeling or any ill feeling towards them. I definitely had ill feeling towards myself, and I needed to learn how to forgive myself, but I didn't know how to do that at that time. But I just feel that that's part of that connection of knowing that, we are all connected, and as much as I don't condone what they're doing and say it's okay, not at all, but also I'm a part of that journey, and that's the craziness that we signed up for as well, for our evolution, is to step into these experiences. And like what you're saying is, now we're moving to a place where I feel we don't have to have those experiences. They don't exist anymore. We've shifted all that stuff.
I
Yeah,
thought
for
you woke
sure.
up. I thought you woke up 18 years ago, not 30. Well, but that was the soul. I mean, that was, and I feel too, like through your story, which is very intense and very metaphoric on in a small linear time frame of what we're all doing, which is reaching that point and saying, no, not anymore. This is not okay, right? But I also think through your story, or feel through your story, that if we look back, not just to the paranormal and the psychic activity and the telekinesis and the whatever, but to the moments where we had like that, to the connection that we had with that voice that we can't explain, that voice that is all of everything, but also my voice, that ultimate equilibrium. We've had it the whole time. For me, it would be, when I was a kid, I grew up Catholic. I didn't really like the church, but I liked Mother Mary and Jesus. And, so there was this connection, guardian angel, and I feel like sometimes we forget about the sheer evidence of our human divinity, our human connection to, which to me is divinity, made in the image, right? And not even to speak of the last few years, not even to speak of your last 18 years, or even the last 4 or 5 years. The amount of awareness that's come into our consciousness to our field, that we become, is how can we doubt it anymore? Maybe that's the veil that needs to drop. Like what else can the external throw at us? Throw whatever you, like you said, give it. Hey, I'm not doing this anymore. Kill me, beat me up, whatever. Okay, but you're going to have to kill me. You're going to have to, because I'm not doing this anymore. And that's to me like the most powerful energetic thing we could do, because it's not just about a lifetime or overcoming a dark night of the soul. It's about a collective turning around on a dime and saying, okay, that is enough. No more. Regardless of all the narratives and secret space programs and this and that and all these things. Like you said, we're all connected, and I guess that's how we find our connection, is to, because like with you made this determination out of love and respect for yourself, and simultaneously you had compassion and empathy for those that were, your oppressors or antagonists. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I mean, I've even now I often reflect on my life when I was younger, because I could see how I was in touch, and I had sensitivities and awarenesses that I wasn't aware of. Yet they supported me and helped me, and I draw on those tools now, even though I've gained a lot of tools and evolution, and I'm totally at a different frequency than even what I was yesterday. However, I still see the absolute value of those times when I was younger and going through those densities. And I also feel I have a really good relationship with the ego, with the humanness and society and all that. I don't align with the government. I don't agree with it, but I'm not separate from it. And I've always had that. Um, Maybe not always. Okay, when I was younger, I would have been angry about a lot of things and very them and us. But yeah, a lot of the more conscious part, it's like you're actually cutting part of yourself off. That everything that's in our reality is a part of consciousness. And that's how we can shift it, by seeing the value of it and what its purpose is, and saying, okay, does this align? Does this resonate? No. Yes, no, and then move from that place, but not to get into a battle. If you're in a battle or pushing against something, you're going to get hurt. You'll hurt yourself and you'll hurt others, and you'll be so disconnected, and you'll cut off the flow, the divine flow that's moving through us and collectively. And it's so fascinating, because there is, within the circles of consciousness, let's call it, there's a lot of disillusion and distortion and all sorts as well, and it's just finding that within yourself. Your greatest voice you can have is the one within you, and just doing whatever it takes to get more and more in touch with that, I feel is vital. Because if we're on the planet, you're here now, you've got an important role, and your codex is super important and part of the tapestry. It's a thread of the whole tapestry, and we all come in and bring something that's vital, and we can only really know that if we know it in ourselves. Of course, we can get assistance from other areas, but the more we get in touch with that within ourselves. And also reflecting on my past, I used to say when I was younger, a young fella, when I was still in that 3D world, that I was a messiah. And I didn't say that from an ego place. And I don't know even if I really knew what I was saying at the time, but I do remember that I used to say that. And it's just fascinating. I just love reflecting on those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, male or female, masculine or feminine, particularly masculine, I've never heard the way you just explained that, which is to in a relaxed manner, calmly, surely, deliberately, take ownership of the whole thing. The bullshit, the illusion, the government, the Vatican, the this, the that, all of it. All of it. in these circles, these light worker circles, starseed circles, and we're all learning, we're all evolving. I'm not throwing shade on anybody, but we do, and I've done it, and you get to a point and say, well, you need dark and light, and I get that. And I've had my experiences with dark in the multi-dimension and light, right? But still, as a human being, as you're walking this path, it's kind of easy to say, it's kind of easy, like you were saying, to pop out there and leave this little part out that happens to be the seed of this experience, right? But to be able to say it's all me, and to really think about that, because what you're saying is and what you're doing is, if you look at the quantum entanglement aspect of it, the micro to the macro, the within to without, as within and without. You're 100% on your, that it's you. Even though it's the grossest, densest, most physical distortion of the multidimensional aspect, you're still here, it's still there, and you're not discounting it or saying it's not something that's a part of you. And not only that, but you're embracing it just as you embrace every other aspect of the external experience or your internal, right? I mean, this is to me like the type of consciousness and intelligence that we're coming into. Something that doesn't have to be taught. It does have to be experienced, I think. In your bullying episode, that's like a really intense way. You're definitely a gatekeeper. You were definitely knocking down some gates there. But it's exciting to hear that from a masculine voice that's been through, the tribulations and the trials and still standing tall and shining. So thank you.
You're welcome, brother. I mean, yeah, like I say, we don't sign up for anything more or less than what we can handle, and I'm sure you would have heard that before, So it all plays perfectly out how it's meant to be. I mean, part of how I see it is, okay, if I contaminate my water, if I judge myself or someone else or say something, I'm contaminating my water. So somebody on the planet has to play the role of contaminating Mother Earth's waters, because we're not disconnected. We're all one, So it only takes one person to do one thing, and that can go out into the whole field, and then people can pick it up because it's in the field, so you can grab it. So if I'm contaminating my water, then someone's going to be contaminating the waters, and how many people are contaminating the waters? So we see a lot of contamination of Mother Earth's waters. So the best thing I can be is stop contaminating my waters. It's to understand what I'm doing to my own waters, which is affecting the waters of all, cosmic waters as well. And then on a physical level, look at, okay, what I'm consuming, and through that, what am I supporting? And does that align with my truth? And then I can make choices on this physical plane of not to buy from that company, or not to support that company, or to live this way, or not talk about that way, and all those things, it's very vast. But I just find, for me, that just brings me fully self-responsible, and I cannot start going into judgment. It's not that I condone it or I'm naive to the things that go on and people choose and what have you. I just have a different perspective, and it's like an overview. And I think even when I've heard people say, okay, those other beings weren't even invited here. For me, okay, that could be true, but it's not important because they are here. They have been here. That's how I look at it. It's like, however it happened or whatever way, isn't really going to feed my evolution.
It's not relevant anymore.
No, it's not relevant.
It's like when I woke up, I went on the streets for a couple of years by my own choice, and I kept hearing, as I was in this state of being homeless or whatever, and all that stuff you're talking about, the judgment, lack of judgment, you're working through everything. And I kept hearing circumstances and consequences are the same thing. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who got you here, who you think got you here. You're here, and that's all that matters, and where you're going, kind of thing. But yeah, this whole thing with all the different narratives, everything that's being put out there in the electronic tech age, on the internet, and who can you trust and who can you not trust, and the tech that's being put out there, and people are like going crazy over it, but that's only the tech they're releasing, and the other interdimensional, multidimensional, but it's all right here. That's the whole thing. What's the difference between an angel of light or the darkest demon if you're giving your power over to it? The lesson is that we are, you know what I mean? And it's been an interesting ride the last couple of years, especially the last few months of last year, as this masculine and feminine energy really started to make some shifts back and forth and back and forth. And I really feel like that, not to get wrapped up into any certain stereotypical narrative, so many things lose their meaning with the connotations they take on, even in groups, communities, platforms, conversations, twin flames, ascension, whatever. This is about us. And it's going to be real interesting to see if we reach the point, and I'm with you, what we talked about before we came on, or at the beginning, in terms of living as long as we want to live, teleporting, time and space being reduced to space-time, rather than a linear human construction of, illusion. You know what I mean? It's amazing. And the level of timeline shifts, dimensional into another dimension are, to me, it seems like they're not a one-time occurrence. They just keep happening. Like one happened today. One happened to me last night. These moments where you're like, you're like going, what the hell? I'm like standing right here, and I'm hearing this warbling. It's going, and I'm like looking at things, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And everything just went this, and then I realized later that's what it was. There's no owner's manual for what we're doing. We're writing the owner's manual. We're writing the directions in the conscious moment, and I love that part of your story and your energy, because we've all had these connections outside of ourselves, and for those of us who have doubted that, we're starting to realize that we've had it. So many of these are trauma based. Okay, so what happens with traumas? You block them out in your subconscious, right? So there's a lot coming to the table here, and but with that isn't just like this awareness, like, oh, we're all one and we're unified, and no, it's this consciousness, like you're talking about the water. I'm in a small little town in Mexico that's not commercialized, so I get organic produce and I get grass fed if I eat meat, and I get fish from the sea if that's it's right on the ocean, but there's still elements of plastic and just different things. One of them being water. Finding a bottle of water that's not in plastic is not that easy. So my point is every time I drink water, regardless of the container, I go the other direction. Everything is the same thing. The intentions that this was made, if they're nefarious to put plastic in my system or whatever the case is, I'm equalizing all of this. I am drinking the mother. The mother is the water, and I live by the bay, so it's easy for me to say and feel. But yeah, so it's the getting to the point where, because where did this all originate? All these experiences that you've had, all these things that you've come to, like your story about the bullying, it's from our thoughts. What we would basically say is our thoughts. And what is that? It's our heart, it's our mind, it's our soul, it's the merging of all three. I don't know. But we have the power to change anything with that. I mean, you could have looked at those friends that became friends again or whatever. You could have looked at them a whole different way, and your life would have been a whole different thing.
Yeah, for
You know what
sure.
I mean? So
Yeah, and
this
even
is,
from this moment, I could rewrite that timeline.
yeah, that's right. That's the thing. Okay. So because it's real. If I think you're, you know, whatever, that's real energy. Now your field may not be strong enough to not allow my energy to penetrate my bad thoughts or my judgment or whatever the case is, depending on how things are going. You know, but the other thing too is like what you said is we are affecting everything all the time. And that's the cherry on top, because the first part of it is our own personal expansion, you know, greater awareness, lift, shift, whatever. But there, it does seem too that what you said, what's really stood out tonight for me is the whole thing about owning everything, because resistance is resistance. And hey, if you don't like Trump, or you don't like the ICE agents shooting people in Minnesota, or you don't like the war and this and that and all that, it's all a reflection of us. You can't say, hey, universe, the other 99.9% is responsible for this. I'm not. I got nothing to do with it.
Exactly. Who
It
draws the
doesn't
line
work
where he
that way.
says it's part of my creation and it's not? You know, which part of you is drawing that line? You know,
Yeah.
and also for me, like within things, when I'm in a situation and there's something happening, I just observe myself. And if there's an emotion, that's all I'm interested in. You know, okay, if it's with a friend or there's a conflict, whatever, okay, let's create harmony, of course, you know, let's talk about it. But I always bring it back to me and go, okay, the most important thing here is for me to see, am I being triggered? Which means if I see it from a conscious place, I'm being activated. So it's a blessing. But if I don't see it from that place, then I'm living in separation. You know, I'm still relating to it from my human unresolved trauma and separation, you know. So it's just really, that's how I relate to everything is, okay, whatever's going on in the world, if I put my energy into it, is there anything happening for me? Because when I'm maybe healed or I'm in wholeness within that thing, I observe it and I may still feel it, but I'm not triggered. You know, I don't get a reaction to it. I can relate to it. I can see it from that perspective. I can bring something from my perspective, but it's all conscious, you know, because that's the field, you know, and the quantum field's constantly talking with us. You know, we talk a lot about manifestation and it's amazing manifestation, how we can do it. For me, it's not always manifestation, you know. If I say something and something happens, it could be actually the field that talked to me and then I said it because I felt it. I just wasn't aware that it came to me, you know, and I could give lots of examples than just saying it that way. So I just feel that's really what's happening now is all that wholeness within us is so accessible and there's constant information. You know, like I have days where like I'm sitting in this room and I can hear the pillow and the sheets talking to each other, you know, and the cupboard and myself and everything, and it's really busy and there's a lot going on, but it's not noisy, you know, it's not intense or heavy or anything. It's life, you know, and you know, that whole linear experience, I don't really experience that for many years now because it's, you know, you just bring yourself to the moment, to the moment, to the moment, to the moment. It's just a vast amount of information and you open yourself up to so much more. I had an experience a while ago where I had a bit of a feeling where the day went quickly and I was like, needing to have that experience because it used to be my everyday life, you know, fast day, short day, gone quick, weeks gone, you know, and I don't have that almost ever at all. And it was just fascinating to revisit it for that moment and think, wow, it's so different to, you know, when we're just living true and full and whole and connected. Yeah.
Well, and it's, you know, it's like a familiar thing too. It's not like, well, it was weird because it didn't happen very often. But now it's happening more and more and more. And you're right. It's more like a lucid dream. It's more like, it's not time oriented, space oriented. It's more like scene oriented. You go from this scene to that scene. And then I love what you say too about, does it bring up an emotion? How does it make you feel? And really the focus isn't this second nature knee-jerk reaction. Now it becomes an opportunity for greater awareness. And then obviously from there, you either have no response or a conscious response. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Thank you so much. Hang on a second. The next
Yeah, you're
guest,
really cutting out.
the next guest was calling in. Listen, I really loved sitting down with you. I feel like we just got started. We should do this again very soon. If you don't mind, I'll reach out to you and see if we can do this, and continue this conversation. Thank you for coming in and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, brother. It's so nice to come in and connect, and thank you for having this space, and bringing so many amazing beings and to share and inspire and be inspired. Yeah, so I'm grateful for being here. Thank you, and definitely we can go again. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes with Sally Claridge. Take care. Bye-bye.